Welcome to the Frequency Ma podcast with Sheena Israel and Alyssa Ma. Frequency Ma is a sanctuary for the oracular and the ordinary. We explore the interwoven paths of mothering, embodied business and prosperity, self-creation and relationship, spiritual technologies like channeling and frequency keeping. Expect earth and insights to catalyze your quantum leaps. For the multi-dimensional, multi-passionates, all of you is welcome here. Journey with us. Record. Just like we're still not in an episode. We're just weaving, because I should have every time hit record at the start. And then we can just become. Sorry, I snuck that up on you.
No, that's okay. It's good. It's good. Maybe I just need to not hear it. Yeah, I want to do that. And I also think we really began with kind of an epic topic that could be woven through, which was the layers of consciousness and expression of the feminine. And we spoke into that with music, and there's more there, but then brought it into idols and worship and life force energy, and there's so much there too. And the idols and worship has been pretty a hot topic in the last couple of weeks that I'm noticing coming up a lot as well, and that's really interesting. Just some people in my field, I'm noticing they're kind of in this interesting, I don't need to make it about them, because I understand that it's for me to kind of process where am I at on this topic, what beliefs am I still holding that are experiencing some kind of tension towards whatever this is showing me, and I'm relating it back to this the dark mother and Lilith, and I keep wanting to say Medusa as well, because there's this, gosh, and all of them there's so many of these goddess kind of archetypes that we don't have the full story. We don't have the full story. And even if we read, if it's European or Middle Eastern, if we could, there's layers to their stories. And the farther back we go, I'm noticing, particularly with Medusa, is that this archetype is not what she's portrayed as. She's the expression of a pain body. It's this snake hair and turns men into stone, and I'm imagining this woman who was very much dishonored and disgraced in her humanity, in her beingness, in her sexuality, and this feminine energy. And then, but she's also quite powerful. And so I'm imagining this being, having this power to reflect back the energy and the conscious intention of the person coming to attack her. And that is what they see. It is not. It is, they see the reflection of their own intentions. And instead she's demonized and put into this ancient chamber of don't go there, because she's bad, but she's not. And when she has been working with me through the dream space, she asks me to see her in that the snakes in the hair and the sharp teeth and the wildness, to see it and see through it,
Mm.
And the first time, like, it, I experienced like fear in my body in these like quantum spaces, in a way that I hadn't for a long time. And I also could hear the ma frequency telling me, breathe. It is not what it seems. So I had that kind of like coaching, and it was like an initiation. And as I did, the snakes, like, everything softened, and it wasn't scary. No, it was like seeing through a veil, and then and then coming out on the the other side, rather, like, I don't know if that's even the right way to say it, but then she kind of like merged in with my body and into the bones, like the snakes kind of like wove around me like vines and
Mm.
went into my bone. And then it was as if she was like speaking power into the plasma.
Mm.
And I could feel this kind of like snake writhing up, like not writhing, but wiggling up. And once it kind of like reached this heart space, it was like a really, really grand reclamation and honoring of power to be used, um, for the highest good. It wasn't like, it was as if releasing Medusa from needing to reflect other people's, or other people needing to reflect that shadow, and allowing her to be in her glory as like a loving being. And it
Mm.
was just really interesting. And I'm like going off on a tangent here, but Lilith as well. And I feel that it's all one.
Yeah.
They're all one. When I hear the voice, it's all one. it, there's like thousands of voices in one frequency.
Yeah.
And that's pretty hard for me even to wrap my mind around. And so I kind of just don't at this point. I'm not like actively trying to wrap my mind around it, if that makes sense. I'm just like, I'll allow the questions, and I'll
Yeah.
follow through on the ones that I can feel in my heart are ones to follow through on. But other than that, I can it's the Madonna song, right? Open your heart to me. That's what, yeah.
I think that's a big shift is, yeah, wrapping this kind of, from the age that we are closing the chapter on, this like mental efforting towards accumulation of knowledge and like seeking to wrap our minds around, and this being the kind of pinnacle of, human achievement, is the kind of, yeah, collection, which is very kind of, um, it's very parasitic, right? We're like, we're trying to collect things. I've definitely felt this energy in my body of this like need to conquer, and through the collection of things, bits of knowledge and classifications, and part of that, uh, seeking to collect is to categorize, which is to inherently separate, to create separation between things that are quite grand and beyond definition. If we are abstracted out of the heart space, the heart space wants to conflate and to weave and to merge and to understand the darkness. It's like that black sun, Medusa, Lilith, dark mother, plasmic void, all of this kind of, seed of creation, where we are not confronted with, just one face of the eternal. We are, able to enter in through so many doorways. And, these doorways are, subtle invitations. Sometimes they're more, explicit, but, you know, all of the ways in which we, seek to, categorize and name the goddess, to name Mother, Father, God, to name the, the, um, unity of all consciousness, are just ways for us to bridge where we are, our human selves, with our eternal nature. And so there is a deep significance and meaning to how we hold these different goddess energies. But at the same, like, they hold specific frequencies and, are tied to different aspects and elements of human culture and human history. So like when we're tapping into, say, like Lilith energy, there is something meaningful in understanding her, history of being reviled and, kicked out of the Garden of Eden, and, all of the ways that stories have built around her through the ages, how she's shape-shifted, through the ages. But at the same time, I see the Medusa and the Lilith energies as quite entwined, and that they're like yeah, simply different, as we like are walking through a garden and we see a multiplicity of flowers, we are being invited into, through witnessing all of these different permutations of earth and her just unending abundance. So it's like these flowers are these expression of bliss. And in the same way, the faces of these different goddess energies, the dark goddess, the more light goddesses, they're all aspects that are part of the oneness. And so it feels important to hold that, especially kind of that orientation to the eternal and to the one, because I think that we can really get caught up in the mentalizing of something that is not meant to be engaged with through that faculty alone, and wanting to like have a clear and consistent way to refer to different goddesses, and then we start collecting them. And this is like kind of one of the impulses of the, and I, inorganic impulses of the new age, that, we want to, in the same way that we collected knowledge, in academic realms, or, that we now turn our attention as we become spiritual, then we want to collect knowledge of different goddesses. And we want to know that, oh, this goddess did this, and we speak as if it's definitive. And in the same breath that we say something definitively, we lose that connection to the mystery. We lose that connection to the darkness, to the mystery, to the sea of potentiality. And we do that. We have, of necessity, we create separation. This is the whole, divine experiment that we're a part of, is we create separation so we can experience ourselves coming back into oneness. And so, without kind of villainizing that effort to, separate and categorize, I want to be cautious of, disallowing the messiness and the overlap. And I think that's like something that I really distinctly want to welcome into this space, is the in-between spaces. And yeah, that feels like really rich territory for the conversations that will happen here.
As you're describing, I think the first journey that I kind of did I did when we're really trying to tune into the frequency Ma, was the first real witnessing of the Lilith energy. And I will say that coming out of that, I was, or whether in it in the beginning, when I was like noticing and I was asking, like, what energy am I tuning into right now? And she would speak her name, but it was this like, currently in this now moment,
Yeah.
I'm speaking through a specific aspect that you may know or recognize as Lilith.
Yes.
It's not I am Lilith.
Yes.
It was something else. And so there was a lot of other energies present, but the one voice that I heard that was speaking through was that. And then the Medusa came in, and then the I don't have it written down, but so many others, but there was always like the Magdalene. There was always the Kuan Yin. There was always the ones that are maybe seen as more light and peaceful. They were always there too, holding space. And like as if, they are all like a unified sisterhood.
Yes.
And it was a really powerful like healing experience for me. And I fully admit to like being a little like resistant to speaking with Lilith and seeing like when I was resistant to speaking with Lilith, then Medusa came in. It's like I'm I must witness this. It was like I had to, and perhaps I was confronted with the Medusa energy because I resisted the Lilith. Maybe. I don't know. Doesn't matter. It's all perfect anyway. I'm so glad that I did, because throughout that whole journey, what came through was this message that really stuck with me. My journey here, coming here into this space with you, connecting with you, years ago, and then also just like as my inner child plays with nature, was that what she said was, the stories of me are not what they seem. It is said that I was cast out of the heaven, but what actually happened is I went into the earth. I merged with the mother. And when you put your feet on the sand, you receive me. You're always in connection. And that was kind of the mind-blowing kind of thing for me. It was like, of course, they're not like cast out into some like hell or dark cave or whatever it is. They're literally expressing all of their love and all of their beauty through the flowers, through the trees, through the birds, through everything of like this manifestation of cosmic energy that we call earth or Gaia or whatever it is. And I see it too when you're talking about going into the garden, and we see all of this beauty around us, like speaking to one goddess aspect or god aspect, whatever we want to call it, is not it's not like totally different than picking the lavender to receive that specific medicine, or gravitating toward the rose, or a tree, like whatever tree that they're all unique expressions,
Yeah.
and they all have specific medicine, and we get to experience the uniqueness,
Yes.
oneness, and that's really interesting. And I think, again, it's the word interesting. I was literally just having this conversation with somebody the other day. They're like, I'm going to stop saying curious. And I'm like, I'm going to stop saying interesting, but it was a replacement for something else. And I don't know what to replace it too much. And I mean, I probably won't stop, but it is beautiful, and it's worth exploring. Yeah.
When you were speaking, I got this like intensely textured vision of the interconnectedness of, like, when we're talking about all of the different faces of the goddess, as being held in the oneness. Like, if we take that kind of cross section of Gaia, considering like on a spherical plane, like, and we take like from Earth's core to all the way through to the blossom of a flower, and we go down through the petal to the stamen to the leaves to the roots, and we go through all of these layers, and it's like these are all of the aspects, everything in between. I'm only talking about the far poles, right? But everything in between is the goddess. So like the soil, like the intense networks of communication within the soil, the microbiome, all of this is an aspect of the goddess who might manifest. And as we get into these deeper layers, then we're getting into that like pure creational, like more primal Lilith energy. And it's like this is an aspect that is like kind of sandwiched between maybe like yeah, this kind of crystalline earth core energy, and then like this flowering Aphrodite, like Venus energy that and yeah, so it seems like really like when we're talking about, what we're intending for Frequency Ma as a podcast, in this container, that explicating the implicit, which I think was as I was saying that, I think that was my master's thesis title.
Oh, really?
This is a totally different. So speaking of shape-shifting, like I was a totally different expression where it was like very much, yeah, from an academic and mental plane. But yeah, I feel that the truth in that, like this project of explicating the implicit. So what we think is like needs no further exploration, and that's kind of, consolidated, um, you know, lost in time, and kind of yeah, not needing further awareness. Like, and I'm thinking specifically of, to make it practical, like the mundane aspects of mothering, right? Things that I long to hear conversations about are those in between points. Like we hear grand stories of transition of like coming out of, poverty into abundance, or coming out of a relationship into, thriving as a single mother, or coming from being single into a, relationship with a beloved counterpart. And like there's so many little nooks and crevices that are like so deep and rich that I feel like a lot of these stories just kind of bloop, kind of gloss over, and I was here and now I'm here, but like what is the real kind of like raw texture of that transition? Because when I am in moments where I feel hopeless and I feel disconnected, isolated, deeply depressed, and um, when I'm, yeah, deeply seeking the mentorship of other women through story medicine, I want those details of like how did you do it? How did you move from here to here? Like what was that alchemical process of transmutation? And so I really intend for this space to be a place where we elevate and excavate sounds so aggressive, but like we witness where it is. We travel to, as a collective, we travel to these spaces that are longing to be seen, because as we do that, for Gaia, we do that for ourselves. And as we liberate these potentials for smoother transitions, we are creating the really richly textured possibility for our daughters to experience much less of that kind of miasmatic density and stuckness that like we are transmuting very personally through our own stories and lives, but also like as this time frame on the planet, it feels very nourishing to go to these spaces that seem kind of, clogged or forgotten, and to bring flow, just through our witnessing. So I loved that visual.
I feel in this space when you're speaking to excavation sounding a bit aggressive or maybe too much. I'm When you say excavation, I actually feel the visual of like an archaeologist with their tiny little brushes and their soft feet. That's kind of what comes up for me. And I feel that in this space, what we can, offer to one another and whoever joins us on this journey is that kind of excavation. It is an excavation to know, to understand, to learn, and to bring the wisdom that is like embedded in layer and layer and layer to the surface. It's not to be in the dirt, but it's to bring up the wisdom. And by in the dirt, I mean like in the mess, in the suffering. We don't have to kind of like linger there, but there is medicine there, there's power there, there's energy that is being held in the pain body or in trauma. And it's like that moving through process that is really organic and unique to each of us. And when you say you want stories of like to hear how did you get from this place to this place, it's, I think of the archaeologists of just kind of like wanting to understand, like what were the people that lived here like, and what did they love, and just kind of brushing away and seeing what comes up and seeing what comes up. And at the end, we have like statues like the Venus of Willendorf, which is just this teeny tiny little like fertility goddess that's like, it's like 3 inches, but it's like, it's so epic. And so has been that statue for me has been such a like a beacon to understanding what is this feminine energy that my body expresses and what is wanting to move through me for decades. And it wouldn't have happened if somebody wasn't just gentle with their learning, gentle with their understanding, and gentle with their inviting. So I like excavation as a word. I do understand it is. You can find another one.
I think there's some things that long to be surfaced. Like there is an inherent energetic that is like upward moving. Like if we're, orienting that way in space, that there's a blossoming, that there's a quality of wanting, desiring to become visible. And I guess perhaps I'm like noticing my own resistance to visibility in that, because I'm like, we have to meet the hidden things where they are. And I think that both are true, and we meet in the moment the medicine that's called for. And, while some things want to rise to the surface, there are some things that, like, the grain of sand in the oyster, like, wants to stay. And it's like that, like, it's the witnessing, and it's the act of surrender to the grit that allows that to become the pearl. And so that, like, in a way, like, we become this, angelic awareness that allows the oyster to, and like this metaphor is getting messy, but the thing that's held deep within the earth that is, that does not suffer in darkness, the thing that does not suffer in darkness, but that requires darkness, and that we meet. One of the things that I heard from Lilith as a collective energetic during this kind of process of leading up to our conversation today was that, like, I am the mother of light, like, and it was this visual of like her encircled around light, but she was not of it, but she was tending it. And so that, like, in the way that her inherent darkness was preserved. And so, and yet there's a necessary entanglement if we, take that metaphor, if as but that, like, there is wisdom in the dark. And so, meeting the things within ourselves that are held in darkness, and not needing to immediately surface them and expose them to the light, because, again, we're transcending, our project is transcending duality. And so when we hold this light and dark as the light is where the good is, we're we're creating separation. We're not moving into oneness. And so I think there's that really potent call to be in the darkness and to be whole there, be whole wherever we are traveling, whether it's into deep densities, whether it's into, higher echelons of light, and to weave. And it is this process of weaving. So as in our bodies, as in Gaia, as we're moving from the highest heights to the deepest depths, we are, as a needle moves through a tapestry, like we are weaving, like very, very specifically weaving. And that feels like a really distinct part of like our project during this aeon, like as we usher in this new age of light, that we are the weavers. Like we have to go, we desire, we incarnated to go to the depths and to take ourselves there in wholeness and to engage in this like, grand project of reclamation. And where that reclamation doesn't just mean like exposing what is dark to the light. Everything is meant to surface at the right time. And so it's like I'm thinking of like the seed that's still, it's covered in darkness and it's being held and cradled, and it will emerge when it's ready. And so there's like there's a potent visual that I'm holding with this.
I'm so glad you said that. I was visualizing a seed as well with the weaving. And did I cut you off? I'm sorry. I
No.
Either a sentence wasn't finished or a word wasn't, and so I needed to pause. Okay, so as you're speaking, before you said the seed, I'm being reminded of this. That might be a longer story for another time, but we're weaving, like it's as if over time, right, from the Lilith energies and these goddess energies that we have from in legend, it's they're seeded into the earth. And now is this time for, I'm hearing a lot about a new golden era. And it's almost as if these seeds were planted for us. And it is with our open hearts that and our loving expression, for the highest good of all, that we can tune into where those seeds are planted in our reality, in the earth, in our reality, in daily life. And we are kind of, I don't know, consciously and energetically nourishing those seeds in the soil and nourishing them in our lives so that they do begin to sprout, so they do begin to surface. And it's like, it's not an exposing so much as like a union meeting where the seed is rising up and the light is there to greet it. And it's like, here we are. And it's like we can witness like the surface of earth or anything in our like viewpoint, like our whatever, our vision, as this like manifestation of this process. And I feel that that's kind of, weaving in the ideas of how we create our own realities through belief and focused intention and various things. There's so much in the world around manifestation and how we create our realities and all of that. And I think what I want to explore here with you and with everyone else is that in between there that we spoke of, the process of the germination and the sprouting up and being witnessed, and what comes after. Yeah.
I love that. I'm thinking of the spiral of this conversation mirroring kind of the spiral of consciousness that we are traversing, and that the real medicine of the Lilith and Medusa archetypal energies is the deep resilience and patience to be a face that is made villain, that is made vile, that is made unloving, which is a facade for the deepest, most patient, unconditional current of acceptance and pure creational potential that feels quite liberating to tap into, because it mirrors my own daily struggle as a mother, and all of the ways in which I'm asked to do more than I can, and then I do it, and I've done it, and that, there is a real paradoxical kind of pain bliss, creation destruction, um, impossibility, and all potentialities that are, weave through the space of like daily motherhood. And there's such medicine in those primal energetics to, understand like that deeper hidden meaning behind these, the experiences of, experiencing myself as the villain, as the mother that yells, or, the mother that fails in whatever way, I am feeling. And how real is that? Is that illusory? And is that something that is that a, is that an reality that I want to energize with my attention? And so like when we go back and we uncover the true pulse of these goddess figures, it really helps me in my mothering to be in the dark place and to not need to be elsewhere, but to also mother myself in the kind of depth of understanding for the all that is swirling around me, that I am holding so much. I'm holding the kind of the routine aspects of motherhood, the ways that I show up, physically for my children, emotionally, spiritually, and then all of the kind of deep energetics that I'm transmuting through my body for this planetary ascension cycle. There's so many layers to what we do as, holders of the Ma frequency, which is all people. Like, it's not even all, but all women. It's all, all humans. We are all mentoring with this Ma frequency, and she is here to claim us all as her own in this very, in the way that you just like the, in the way that being claimed feels like the sweetest thing anyone could, ever whisper in your ear. And it is through our own self-reclamation that we are claimed by the Ma, and that we return to oneness. And yeah, there's so much depth there.
So beautiful. And just even when you spoke to the you said so much, but the issue here, not the issue, what am I trying to say? The mother that yells or gets whether it's raising your voice or yelling, perhaps energetically, which children feel. It doesn't matter if you raise your voice. It doesn't even have to be a tone. You can say it in the most like as sweetie pie way could possibly say, but they will feel the energy there, the intention, and But also with the yelling or the more forceful expressions of that. When I feel into that for myself, it's really always coming from a place of like needing something.
Yes.
And but not from anyone else. And that's kind of the thing there is I kind of feel into, sorry, I don't know if that was loud, something fell. I kind of feel into this practice that is like so simple, and I often forget it, but just the power of being able to close your eyes and take a breath. And I have been, not more recently, but I have been focused on different ideas of what self-care means that didn't fit with, either they weren't working for me anymore, or they didn't fit with the life that you know, the reality that I'm weaving with now. And instead of being upset to have like not completed that or not done that or not cared for myself in this way or that way, I always come back to this, like, I can breathe and I can close my eyes and I can be with myself for just a single moment. And that is an act of like timelessness, and it lasts forever. And it's like it builds momentum, and it's like every time that I allow myself to do that, I drop back into that space, and there's more richness there and more witnessing. And it doesn't have to be for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. I mean, that's glorious, but it doesn't have to be that. It can be 4 seconds. It can just be 4 seconds. And I know that when I do that instead, everything shifts. Like everything shifts around me. And it's very, very powerful. And that is the more frequency moving through us. That's how I feel it. It's like allows the heart to open, and it's the acceptance, like, okay, I need some help.
Yeah.
And because I've asked, I will receive. And it doesn't have to come from over there or behind me or in front of me or wherever. It can come just, it can arrive in my perception because I'm allowing it to. It's always been there. And so this is like when we talk about the process of how do you get from here to there, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, like countless ways to do that. And just like right now in this moment, because you said the mother that yells, and that transmitted an energy to me that I'm very sensitive about, not because of the yelling, but because I know I know how my like highest expression of motherhood. I know that leadership. I know what it feels like. I know what it looks like. I know how it feels to others who are in my field, because I've been in that and I have expressed as that. And at the same time, I've also had that other frequency. Yeah. And when I'm in that other, it feels like I am failing at everything. And it doesn't matter how long it lasts. It could be 2 minutes, you know, it doesn't matter. It's just in that moment, there's like there's so much shame, because it's like, wow, in this moment, I'm failing at my mission, or I'm failing at my child, or I'm failing Gaia, or I'm failing everything. And I find that it doesn't matter what somebody else offers me. What I need to do is close my eyes and breathe and receive what is already here for me to receive, because that's what I think mother wants, right? She's like, I am here. I'm here. You don't need to reject me. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. You know, yeah. When you said that, my heart just like, it's like, say something.
Well, I love that so much. I love how you described the act of pausing and closing your eyes, moving into the space of breath, and that there was this like transport into this timeless, I don't think you said the word cave, but I very distinctly got the image of a cave. And it was like every single time you're, through our, quantum creational abilities, we are building this out. And this cave is turning into a temple, every time we visit it. And all we must do, like you said, it's like this, there's nothing external that can ameliorate that feeling of shame or not enoughness or failure. And specifically in the context of motherhood, it's just, I feel like it's just that the rawness of that feeling, like most, I would, if not all mothers know that feeling, can touch in on that very viscerally, of that feeling of just failing yourself, failing your kids. And the antidote to that not being to fix or to remedy in any way, it's to self-source. And in that moment of stepping into that cave, that is a marriage of the light and the dark, that requires, both, that all is instantly forgiven. And it is the love of the mother, it's the love of the ma, it is even beyond the love, it is the ma that is, all is, everything that has passed does not exist there. It is, what would you like to create? And I am here to resource you because I am you. And that kind of like primal reset that truly is available in the space of breath, which is like so radical, so amazing. We're such, divine creations, is, yeah, so readily available. And so I feel that, in the space of, practical tools for navigating motherhood, and also, something that, I find tremendously valuable with my children and equipping them to navigate the, emotional tumult of being a child in this age, is the breath. There's no quicker way to shift one's consciousness and one's experience than through the breath. And sometimes I find myself wanting, complex solutions. I need to do a, very specific, ritual that demands my children be out of the house and the house be in a certain state of cleanliness and this room, so like having this, which there is definitely place for, ritual and ceremony that is, quite elaborate, but I find myself reaching for that and then finding in that the lack of ability to create that for myself in that moment, and then, creating a story of resentment, that, I'm under resourced because I'm a single mom, and then all these stories, pop in, or like, I don't have enough time to myself. And those are real experiences. I do experience that feeling in my body of not having enough time for myself. And yet going into those stories and feeding them is not helping me to create the experience of abundance and mothering. And so, having this very simple, I don't want to say solution, this very simple technique, this very simple technology of the breath to, step into this. And now I'm feeling that it's a garden as well, that it's, the cave, temple, garden, this space of our creation that we can step into and build, through the light of our awareness into, a palace of, unending bliss and freedom, and, is so readily available. But sometimes it just feels too simple and I want to overcomplicate it. So I appreciate that reminder.
Back to that though, because you saying you want a specific ritual, and I see that as like the power of co-creation, a focused intentional co-creation, and you're wanting to make something beautiful because it is joyful to adorn our temple, whether it's our body, our home, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's that we do want that. We want to celebrate life, and we want to celebrate being in life, because that it it feeds life with beauty and celebration. And then that just continues on. But then when we take the simple practice of the breath, I feel what's different about this than mindset work, which I think is really powerful. But what's different about this is that there are moments when you do not want to be told what to do or how to feel or how to think. And even if you were, and even if it's the most perfect thing somebody could say, you might not receive it, or at least maybe I'll speak for myself. The breath offers a solution in, I believe it's like, it is like a marriage of the two masculine and feminine energies within each of us. It is a marriage between the light and the dark, because it is an act of giving and receiving at once. You cannot breathe in without breathing out. Like, they both have to happen. And so therefore we're not bypassing anything. We're not ignoring anything. We're not diving deep into the story, and we're also not ignoring it. We're being in it in present state. And when we do that, maybe we don't start with flowers in the corner and whatever, the floor clean, whatever it is that we want in a space of ritual, but we will arrive there, dishes cleaned and dried, put away, flowers in the corner. We will arrive at that beautified temple space.
Yes.
Eventually. And and when I speak, I'm not trying, when I say eventually, I don't mean that it has to take a long time, and that doesn't matter so much, right? We can, because we get into this need that's like, I want it now, or I need it now. So I can begin by closing my eyes and giving it to myself now. I can resource myself. When you say, I am here to resource you because I am you, like, if that's not like a life motto, I don't know. That's so perfect, like this. I would say that is true of the Ma energy and Pa energy, the masculine.
Oh my God.
I just have to like, yeah, it needs to go somewhere. Sorry for the cheesy rhyme, but there's the divine masculine is that as well. I'm here to resource you because I am you.
Yes.
It is both. And I see the garden as like the child of that union, the child of that, marriage. And it's pretty beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, I have chills. I love that description of the equanimity and union in the in-breath and out-breath, and that, like, how you're describing this, shift from, in the space of the cycle of breath, like there is inherent union, and that this is born out of like desire. Like we can't be outside of the space of desiring when we are sipping the air in and consciously releasing it, and when we are embodying that simple act with the fullness of our consciousness. And I was going to say our highest level of consciousness, I shifted into the fullness of our consciousness, because it doesn't have to be, we don't have to imbue the breath with anything other than what it is we are experiencing, because it is an act of the soma. It is spirit embodied. It is, it cannot be wrong. There cannot be an energy that is present that is not made whole within the space of an in-breath and an out-breath. And this so beautifully shifts from that, energy I was describing of like needing like this contracted space. And this is something that I just like is part of my journey, is to contend with this contracted energy of motherhood. I call it like the mother martyr, this like that I am put upon and I do not have enough. And it's a space that I travel more often than I would like to. And that the shift you're describing is that I'm from this place, like I'm grasping out of a projected need for things to shift immediately, which is the exact thing that breath offers. And it's from, and so that shift into actually receiving what I want happens in the space of the heart. And, when I'm in this space of the mother martyr, I'm in the space of the head, and there's a stilling of the breath. I can observe myself in this kind of stasis. I'm either holding my breath or my breath is shallow. And yeah, the story is emerging from that space of contraction and disconnection from the heart space. And even though what I'm saying to myself that I want are all of these things that are quite beautiful, they cannot be created through that disconnection. And so that allowance of like the energy dropping down, and, being transmuted in this space, I'm thinking of our conversation earlier about like the marriage of the light and the dark, and like, not needing the dark to be light or the light to be dark. And yeah, what I heard was like the womb is dark by nature, and the heart space is where the light, like you were describing earlier, like where the darkness rises and the light descends. And there's this like this point of meeting that happens in the heart space, where we have this kind of swirling, expansive, contractive, kind of radiant beauty that emerges from being with exactly what is. And so not needing my experience to be different, but just being with what it is. So the yelling mom, me, the kids reflecting back to me that they don't like it when I yell, and then very clearly, reflecting back to me things that are quite, ugly in the ways that I show up for them, and that are quite hidden, in spaces like this where we're showing up as, our, radiant selves, and, speaking, in beautiful poetics about, even the darker aspects. But like those real moments of mothering where I'm like tired, undernourished, all of under everything, and just behaving in ways that, like, if they were displayed on camera, I would be like devastated, and those are the real lived experiences. And not needing to use kind of the shaming techniques of prior generations in order to recover that aspect, but instead just allowing it to be witnessed with the heart of love, with the heart of the Ma, which is accepting of all things, and like truly feeling that, like, and through our own human technology, through that, kind of retreat, that timeless retreat of the breath. And wow, yeah, I love that so much, Sheena. Thank you.
And you just said thank you. I'm just sitting over here, like my hands are like pulsing, my crown chakra is just like wide open, and I'm like just in awe of your authentic transmission. It's beautiful, and it is exactly, the medicine that I also want, in receiving stories. And as you're talking about the womb being dark as well, so is the pineal gland, that is also in darkness.
Yes.
And yet it's kind of associated with such masculinity, and they're not separate from one another. Like our bodies are a whole and complete temple. Yeah, it's interesting. I stopped myself from saying interesting, and then I said it anyway.
But it is. It is.
Yeah, it is interesting. Man.
I feel like those, those words that we rely on are kind of just resting points. It's like yeah, in the sea of all possible, things that we can, traverse in or channel, there's like these little resting points. And I think it's cute. I think it's cute to have little quirks.
Yeah, lots of quirks over here. We're good. I think
Gosh.
I wanted to speak to, since we're like having a conversation now about intentions for this space, I would love, even if just so briefly, just to speak into how this co-creation and this union came to be between you and I. And from, my perspective, in my own unique experience, I was really in it, in the motherhood, and really experiencing and just navigating and refining this practice of going to the breath. And I'll say, even at that point years ago, I was better at it.
Mm.
Like, I kind of had this intensity of life kind of not knock me off my track, but I would say invite me in deeper. And so I've been in this something I'm very grateful for, although it has had presented lots of challenges in my experience of life, but it's a reclaiming of like even deeper power that's been covered. It is that Lilith energy. It is the Medusa. It is the Kali. It is, they needed to surface within me. And I had to go there, be willing to witness them and love them back. And but anyway, so getting going off on a tangent, there were these moments where I was really tuning into this mama frequency, this mother energy, and she was speaking to me, and she often sings to me, and sometimes I share the songs that come up. And like this morning, we, before we pressed record, I was letting you know that it was Madonna, Open Your Heart to me, that song. And I kind of like woke up thinking like, oh, you're here. Of course you are, because we had planned to have this conversation. So of course you are. So we're going to be, instead of like sitting in meditation, right? I played the song and I allowed myself to just like dance to it. And as I did that, I could feel that heart opening, and I could also tap into memories of like a time in childhood when my sister and I would just like, put in a tape and play and dance and to Madonna. It was just very sweet. But in those mothering moments, I was calling out to the nourishment that I needed, that I wasn't receiving in my reality, in my relationships, in whatever it was. I needed something. It was deeper than anything. I needed something deeper than anything I could describe or ask for. And that's when she started to speak to me, because I said, I'm done trying to figure it out. Just, I trust that there's this thing that I grew up hearing a lot, because I grew up with like so many different religions around me. But in any language you want to describe this, there is this theme that God never gives you what you cannot handle. And that's always kind of like stuck with me, as well as the body being a temple. So with those two things, I found myself in my breath, in a moment of like very deep surrender, not enraged, just like, wanting to be like, oh, like, oh, like insert whatever word you want there, just kind of like I am done trying to figure this out. I want some help, and I know it's within me. So I'm going to breathe. And that was the only thing that I had access to. And everything else had been stripped away that I could see. And in that breath, that's where I met her. And I was hearing Ma like a song. And then it was probably just the next day, where I was like so green on Instagram. I think I had had Instagram for like 5 days. I don't know. And I see Temple Ma, and you posted something about Ma and the energy of Ma. And I was like, that is an Oracle sister. I don't know what that even means, but I sent you a message. And
Wow.
that was probably like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
4 years ago. No, it was 4. I don't know. I don't know when you started posting as Temple Ma, but it was a while ago because I did not yet live in Portland and I was still living in Oakland. So it must have been 4 or 5 years ago.
Wow.
But it
Wow.
was the Ma frequency specifically that I called out for, and she brought us together. And she has done that for with other other people as well, not just women. But it did start with women, I believe, because or the feminine embodied, because I believe there was soul contracts on um, witnessing and healing of like the sort of like discordant energies around like what is popularized in calling the sisterhood womb. That's a really potent kind of thing, especially now, and it's really strong in women, I believe. Obviously, it's sisterhood womb, but it shows up, and that was something that I needed to tend to within myself and within the relationships around me, and so it started with women, but it's not just, yeah, it's the ma, as you said, it's not just women. We all have her.
Oh, I love this. Like, I know we've connected before and reflected, like, how did we end up connecting? Like, how did our journey begin? And I've heard you say that story, but I always get a new texture, a new detail, or a new, yeah. So it's
Because
so
that's
beautiful.
the sisterhood wound being healed, because in the first texture, it's like it's a little bit of holding back, because it's like, you know, for my own personal stories around that is like, would it be accepted? Like, am
Mm,
I too much? Can I
mm,
share my full heart with this sister?
yeah.
Receive it? Will it be too much? Will it be used? Will it be rejected? Will it be whatever it is? And it's, I think we all have versions of that, and many others, but that's where that is. And of course I was conscious of that nervousness, but I hadn't yet traveled deeply with witnessing in the ways in which I have allowed that to be a part of my life, and also the more like unconscious ways I have like maybe expressed that or projected that,
Mm,
like not from, does that make sense? Like I'm not putting myself into this story of victimhood, because I'm sure there's been points in my life where maybe I was unkind to a sister,
mm.
um, rejected her, didn't see her in her fullness, whatever it was. And um, yeah, so that's where that there's more textures as we connect, and as I heal these wounds. Rather, what I want to say is, it's not, maybe not necessarily an act of healing so much within myself. The way that it feels is like a remembering that the only reason there is a wound there is because I'm holding the pain, and if I
Mm,
let go of it, then I'm whole again, and so is she, and so is he. And so we're seeing each other in our wholeness. And so as I see myself in my wholeness, I see you in your wholeness. I'm not afraid to be all that I am, and I want you to be all that you are. And that's why there's more textures in that story.
wow. Oh, wow. There's so much in that last statement too, that is what I desire to weave in this space, is that, that, and we've talked about this, and, what we are, you know, calling in and deeply intending is that, the uh, multiplicity of textures of our experiencing, like none of it is unwelcome in this space. And there is a desire to mentor with the messiness, and to create a space in which, these, previously hidden textures were not able to be fully witnessed. And it does feel like we are on the precipice collectively of something new and very momentous. And it feels good to kind of reflect back on, our meeting through Instagram and, the really distinct moment I feel of connection between sisters through Instagram specifically. And, I can speak to that because that was my experience. But it feels like that was a distinct part of what we were moving through as we were connecting with soul family. And that is now, now that kind of roots are established in these new multidimensional sisterhoods, beyond, where we live in space. We, have networks across Gaia where we are creating in ways that we previously hadn't. And I feel like those networks are established. There was a real kind of period of ripeness around creating those connections. It was almost this I want to say frenetic, but it was more just like the kind of urgency of like fertility. Like it was like it was like a collective kind of, pre-ovulatory, energy that was propelling these connections. And so it feels like those connections are present and we are being called now so it was a kind of horizontal effort. And we are called now to create from those connections. And as we've discussed, as this podcast has been in our fields for some years now, that there was just an urgency that could no longer be ignored. And, here we are making our second pancake. And so it feels like, a really potent time to be mentoring with the Ma frequency in this way and creating this space. And I'm filled with excitement about the conversations that I know will be held in this space. And I'm curious to maybe hear um, anything else that's on your heart to share regarding what we could experience or plan or look forward to experiencing in the space of the Frequency Ma podcast.
Yeah, I feel that we've kind of already said it in a lot of different ways, but I feel that it's a journey, even in that first connection point on Instagram years ago, it was that kind of inner knowing I'm going to create with this person.
Yeah.
And we have allowed a maturity with that energy. And so I feel that what wants to be, birthed through this project together is, and through everyone, is I don't know, it just feels very new. It feels new. It feels like a very grounded kind of creation presence. It feels that I think within me, I can no longer ignore just a moment. what I want to say is like it's like I could just no longer ignore this desire for union within these energies, the masculine and the feminine. I know that this is frequency Ma, and she's speaking through us, but again, the daughters are not her only, they're not her only children. It is all of life. And yes. And there, as I kind of really experience this idea of the garden and the surface of the earth and the flowers as this like this marriage and this like co-creation of these of polarities of energies. And I even want to like not get so focused on masculine and feminine, right? It is all. And this is kind of like this idea that I believe is wanting to show us the way. How is the how we unify, the how we merge, the how we become the mothers, the fathers, and the children, the creator, the creating, and the creation all at once, is the how I believe is wanting to come through through this. And there's I can't really say more on that, right? Because it's an open door, and it's an invitation for anyone joining us here to come along this journey with us, and however feels good for them.
I love that. I love that so much. Yeah, I think that a lot of the conversations that will flow through here, will be held by us with another guest, on specific topics, but that the orientation is always toward kind of the inherent dignity and wholeness of the channel, that each of us hold. And so, while there's some desire in me to give like a, you can expect conversations about, astrology and, etc. Like we were talking earlier, that like the Ma can't be contained in a list. She doesn't, vibe that way. So,
I think as we invite people to join us in the conversation, it's going to just be so magical. And I want to just hold space for what wants to come through them in that moment, and to not say like, oh, we're gonna have this person on because they're an expert in this thing and that thing, but maybe there's a different medicine that wants to come through them with our soul contracts, with the trinity that will be formed there. And I welcome that. So
yes,
I'm excited for it. Honestly, it's like I don't know, I feel so honored to be here.
yes. Oh, I feel deeply honored as well. And in gratitude for this space. And the one last thing I wanted to mention, and I'm sure we'll be weaving this in future episodes, but just I want to speak and to form my intention that this be a space of being in process and of being transparent in all of the foibles and challenges and slip ups and, weirdness that happens when you're starting something new. And that this enthrone the all that is, the all of the aspects of creation. And so that, seeking to be, overly polished, or to, excise aspects of self, or, parts of the stream that are, like, your son coming in and saying hello, like that there are real lived aspects to this creational process that I want to allow in, as to be born witness to, so that, there's a true honoring of the, yeah, sometimes hidden aspects of like creating a thing in the world. That's been something that I've struggled with, is drawing spirit down into form, and like how does that actually happen? And so part of this is like a documentary for myself of like how does creation work? How do we bring things into form? And so, allowing that the container of this podcast can, and showing up regularly and um, releasing episodically, and can hold this, boundless flow of Ma energies that are desiring to flow through. So, yeah, I couldn't be more excited, delighted, in love with this process. So I'm looking forward to future episodes.
I feel inclined to, I suppose, like close this with the message from this Ma voice that was, when I was like deep in my own conversations around like, how can I do this or that? Like, there's going to be background noise from, Otis playing, or the cars outside, or my dog barking, or the mess, or whatever it is. There's how, like all of the house, like how can
Yeah.
I, that idea of wanting to create this perfect sanctuary and then be in it. And I was like kind of in this conversation with myself, and I brought myself to my breath just for a moment. That's all it was. And I took a deep breath, and then I heard, let's just see, from her voice, let's just see. And it was just the invitation. It was like, it was kind of like saying, I hear you. I'm not denying anything that you are experiencing, but let's just see how it goes. And that was like that's like the friend, like walking you up to a ledge if you're afraid of heights, and just be like, it's gonna be okay, you're not gonna fall. You're allowed to be afraid because we're up really high, but like, I'm gonna hold your hand, and you're totally safe, and I'll go with you. And it was just like a beautiful invitation. Yeah. So let's just see what comes next.
Oh, I'm also hearing that leap first and then fly that we've shared
Yeah.
around the community. So here we are, leaping together, learning to fly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for being here and for being part of this shared field of Ma energies, and we'll see you next time.